So don't think you're talking a lot. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting of the Village of Shorewood Plan Commission to order at 6:30 p.m. We have all members present except for Trustee McGovern, who's probably on his way. Okay. The first matter of business is approval of the May 27th, 2025 Plan Commission meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion approved. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Wicklund, seconded by Commissioner Pollock. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The minutes are adopted as presented. Item 3, further discussion of the Plan Commission's proposed initiative to increase housing opportunities in the village, meeting number 3. This is a continuation of our discussion and possible action this evening. So I'll turn it over to Director Griepentrag to frame this up for us. And I just noticed somebody else joined.
Trustee McGovern.
Oh, it is Trustee McGovern. Okay. Oh, yeah. My glasses don't work. They're readers. Okay. Hi, Trustee McGovern.
Hi.
All right. And hello, Commissioner Flynn Post.
Hi there.
All right. So I'm going to turn it over to Director Griepentrag just to frame up kind of where we've been and where we're at tonight and what our options are.
Thank you, President McKeag. So hopefully you all had a chance to read or reread, I guess for that matter, the materials that were posted regarding this item. As you'll recall, we have 4 general initiatives that we look forward to discussing before public engagement and consideration of the village board is moved forward. So the first 2 that we were hoping to take on as the Plan Commission were a definition of a household to understand whether or not we're happy with the current definition or whether or not there's reason to modify, clarify, expand that definition. So within the packet, I did provide additional legal perspective that I received from the village attorney, as well as examples from neighboring communities, namely Milwaukee, Whitefish Bay, Wauwatosa, and Madison. And then secondarily, the other conversation that we kind of discussed last meeting was the village's current prohibition of bedrooms and basements. I thought I heard general consensus on moving forward with that, but I didn't get a formal motion on that. So for the purpose of tonight's meeting, I would like to receive or take an additional discussion and receive motions with respect to how to potentially draft an ordinance in consultation with the village attorney to bring back for formal recommendations in the future. And then at the next meeting, but we could, introduce it tonight as well, further discussion of potentially accessory dwelling units and duplex restrictions in our residential zoning districts. So I do have the materials from last meeting to share again via PowerPoint, but I'm not going to present everything necessarily. I have a slide kind of summarizing where I think we left off.
And the materials did indicate your follow-up in red. So
Yeah.
if everybody's reviewed those, that will bring us up to speed.
I don't think I shared that properly, so let me try this again.
Mm-hmm.
Trustee McGovern and Kate, can you see the slide?
Yes.
Yep.
And has it advanced?
Yes.
Yep.
Even better, thank you. So once again, this is the Housing Opportunities Initiative that we're discussing. Reference materials related to the comprehensive market study, the comprehensive plan, equity, zoning policy guide, and Congress Renew Urbanism's Enabling Better Places have been referenced as things that we are using to guide this discussion. The options identified in April and discussed in May, once again, are bedrooms and basements, household definition, ADUs, and duplexes. To ground all of these conversations, we will refer to and reference the village's housing goals as identified in the comprehensive plan. I'm not going to read them here. They are in your packet as well as, published online. But we will bring them back as we craft and discuss intricate details as necessary. The village's, so if we agree to tackle housing definition first, which I think is the one that perhaps has the most questions, the village's current definition was last looked at and slightly updated within the commercial zoning update when we formally went from family to household, which from an equity standpoint, staff does agree with is the right move to make. And so we currently define household as one of three categories. You're looking at an individual, any number of persons related by blood, marriage, legal adoption, or legal guardianship. Or the third category is a group of not more than 3 adults of any relationship, plus minor children related by blood, adoption, documented responsibility, living in a dwelling unit. So in general, we have those 3 classifications, and then we also accept the state statute requirements for community living arrangements, foster homes, and adult family homes, which is pretty standard. So as I heard within last meeting, or as I presented, I should say, this definition was updated in 1956, at which point it was to prohibit no more than 2 unrelated individuals. We did expand that at some point in the recent history. I could not find documentation of that. But of note, in 1937, the definition was simply 1 or more individuals living, sleeping, cooking, or eating together on the premises as a single housekeeping unit, whether related by whether related to each other by birth or not. So at some point, we went more specific and said 2 unrelated individuals was the threshold. The village also does have minimum space requirements. So once again, each dwelling unit is theoretically capped at maximum occupancy based on those standards. I have been trying to get an answer from the village attorney as to whether or not that's ever been challenged legally. I believe it has been, but I can't find the results of that court case. But just for reference, we do have household and then minimum space requirements. And once again, using household rather than family is highly recommended. So this is kind of where I land on the situation. So staff is generally comfortable with the language that we're using, household versus family. Once again, household being more equitable. With respect to persons related by blood, adoption, or marriage, we have looked at other examples, and we think that, and by we, I mean, I guess I think that civil union or domestic partnership should also be clarified within there. And then children related by blood, legal adoption, legal guardianship, or documented responsibility would be the complete classification of those options. Examples from other municipalities. So Milwaukee has 2 different definitions in their codes. Within their zoning definition, they just refer to people living in a household with affinity towards each other. They don't define relationship status of any sort or cap them, but that is in their zoning definition. In their enforcement code, which is what their Department of Neighborhood Services would utilize if a complaint was ever referred to them, they do reference related by blood, marriage, legal assignment, or partnership, and they do not apparently seem to allow more than 2 unrelated people together. I can't confirm that, but that is my straight reading of it. I did talk with staff at DNS, and they essentially kind of said it really isn't much of an issue. It's not being enforced. It's difficult to enforce if and when, because you have to rely on people's testimony to tell you how they're there, et cetera. So Milwaukee acknowledges they have 2 different definitions. The enforcement one has not been updated most recently because their staff hasn't been assigned that, whereas the zoning staff has done it, and they've done more of a broad, more equitable sweep to just include affinity. Whitefish Bay uses the word traditional family, and they do cap it at not more than 2 unrelated individuals. Wauwatosa, very similar to ours with respect to blood, marriage, or adoption, but they allow up to 3 additional unrelated persons in a household. So I interpret that to mean 4 unrelated persons. So if you're an individual household, you could have up to 3 additional unrelated people. So you'd have 4 unrelated people, or you could have, you know, a couple and their children plus 3 other individuals as well. So theirs is on the more allowing side of things. And then, as I mentioned in my memo, Madison did a pretty complete review and update, I think 2 or 3 years ago at this point, and they expanded it, in my mind, quite substantially compared to what we have here. They are a college town. They have different issues than we do, you know, growing housing crisis, things of that nature, but they do allow up to 5 unrelated individuals and their dependents to live in the same household. So those are just some examples. If I looked at 5 other communities, I'd find 5 other definitions. And so at this point, I don't know that it makes much more sense to find, you know, what a particular community has, but hopefully help us to identify what we here in Shorewood are comfortable with. So the question that I'm landing on is whether or not you as the Plan Commission think that Shorewood should expand the number of unrelated individuals and their dependents that can live together. So for example, should we allow up to 4, similar to Wauwatosa, which would allow 2 couples and their dependents to reside in the same household? So that's kind of where I'm in the conversation. If there's other issues with our definition, I'd be happy to hear those as well. But once again, I'm looking for some sort of consensus so that I can begin drafting and reviewing with the village attorney what language may or may not need to be changed to accommodate that. Once we have that drafted, I would bring it back to you just for re-review. And then we would define further public engagement either alongside these other topics or individually or however that needs to be held. So I will turn it back over to President McKeag for facilitation of that discussion.
Thank you, Director Griepentrag. I agree that I think you landed on what the question is. So I guess I'd like to do a quick read of the room. It's not out of the question that there won't be other items that you want to add or clarify in our zoning, but since this is kind of the crux of it, I'd like to do a temperature read as far as comfort with remaining status quo at 3 individuals or allowing up to 4 or more. So yes, Commissioner Klein.
I'm in favor of moving it from 3 to 4.
Mhm. I am as
in this
well.
day and age.
I think we should be in the business of defining what a family unit is, and if we just want to regulate the number of unrelated adults, do that.
Mhm. And so would you place a number of unrelated adults?
I'm open to additional conversation, but
Oh, okay.
more than
Ah,
2.
more than 2. Mhm. Commissioner Wickland?
I like 3.
Mhm.
I'd like
Commissioner
3 as well.
Okay. Commissioner Flynn Post and Trustee McGovern?
I'm in favor of 3. I haven't had a chance to weigh in on this, so if there's going to be additional discussion.
Oh, I didn't recall that you
I
weren't
wasn't at
here.
the last meeting, so just if I could share my thought on why 3, and I could perhaps be swayed to 4, but I would not want to remove a limit entirely. And that's because I think of things like predatory landlords. So there's been some conversation about limitations on students, for example. And so how can we open up housing opportunities from the student perspective? And I think an important consideration from the student perspective is also landlords that might want to pack in as many people as possible and at the same time not maintaining the quality of the dwelling. And so I just wanted to bring that to the conversation too, that's why would not be in favor of removing a limit.
Thank you. That is it's in alignment with the discussion, the tenor of the discussion at the previous meeting. So thank you for reminding me too. Trustee McGovern, I know you said something, but I didn't hear it.
I would just say 4 is fine with me. I'm going up to 4 would work. I think I just like the idea of having, making it easier for people and having fewer kind of nitpicky rules. So I think 4 is reasonable.
I do think that 4 is reasonable. So it's not something that I'm gonna hold up the process around, but I do think it's reasonable. Are there any other things that points of discussion about the code other than the number of unrelated adults that anyone wants to raise? No leftovers? Okay. All right. At this time, I would take a motion. Or I also, Ms. Kylie Miller, did you want to speak or be heard on the matter?
Not at this time, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone who would like to make a motion? I think there is a sample motion with a blank in our packet.
Well, I can make a motion.
Mhm.
I try. I move to recommend that the village modify its current definition of household to allowing 4 people rather than 3. And direct staff to consider rewording for clarity and confirm consistency of the use of household throughout the municipal code, drafting all necessary updates for review.
Is there a second?
Second?
Okay, motion by Commissioner Klein, seconded by Commissioner Pollock. A discussion? Yes.
Yeah, before we vote on this, I want you guys to think, I know we're trying to be inclusive here, which I think is great. But, you know, when you look at the reasons these exist in the first place, density issue is one of them. We are a densely populated suburb. We always make jokes how many people are packed into our 1 square mile. This does expand that just by doing that. Now, will it? Who knows, maybe not. But by code, this is there, one, to keep density in place. Also to prevent things like rooming houses, too many students being packed in there. And I just want to know what problem we think we're solving. You know, I mean, are we getting huge amounts of people approaching us saying, oh, we have 4 unrelated adults that want to live together? I don't think it's ever happened, probably. People may be already doing it, and I don't think we're really cracking down on it. So by doing this, are we opening ourselves up to something else just by doing it? And fixing and finding a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. I can see that Madison did it, right? But we're also not Madison. Madison is a city, we're a village. So it's just some things to.
Appreciated. Other discussion? Right. I'm kind of like the way I was with the commercial kitchens. I can see it both ways. I mean, what's important to me is that we move ahead. So why don't we take action, take up this motion now? And if it passes, we move ahead with that recommendation to the village board. And if it doesn't, then we try another motion.
Did you have a second, President?
Yes, Commissioner Pollak. All right. Yes.
I just want to clarify the intention of the motion is to have staff draft
Yes.
the ordinance, and it would come back here first actually for a recommendation of that particular draft. So
Okay.
we're not getting too far ahead of ourselves, just so
Appreciate it.
you're familiar. This would come back and you would be able to review where all the changes that would technically be made.
Mhm.
Madam Chair, just a question on process, and then there will be a public hearing attached to this for the village board.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
And I would expect that we would have larger public engagement before it gets to that public hearing. So in the early meetings of this initiative, we discussed these 4 topics and possibly having like an open house or other types of public engagement to get greater input before we actually schedule anything for adoption. So based on your direction after the draft is done, I'd be happy to entertain other options besides just a public hearing. So yeah, we look forward to something in the fall, perhaps, to discuss all of the topics that we have identified. There is no timeline, I guess,
Yeah.
is what I'm saying in terms
Good
of
point.
needing to get this adopted. There's no applicant, waiting to get a business going or whatever. So I'm on the side of making sure that we get, the proper public comment and drafts done so that we, don't miss anything on the way to the village board.
Appreciate it. Thank you for reminding me of that.
Just-
Yes.
Does that mean we need to clarify the number today since you're going to take it back? Or is that
So I was just looking for a clarification of the number so that I could draft it with that number in. And so I did provide that possible motion and Commissioner Klein did read it, and perhaps maybe it was too aggressive in terms of, or maybe it should have just been tempered down to, like, say, to bring it back to you for review. So it says drafting all necessary updates for review. Maybe if there's a friendly amendment, say for plan commission review, that would clarify that it's coming back to you as opposed to the village board. I was just looking for some consensus on what metrics to change, if any. So there were 2 motions, one to maintain as is, one to modify it as Commissioner Klein motion. So if we think we need or it'd be helpful to add that for plan commission review, I'd be happy to see
Friendly
that play
amendment.
out. Yeah.
Friendly amendment.
I'm good with the amendment.
Thank you. Commissioner Pollak? Okay. All right, let's take a vote on this. So the motion, you want to read back the motion? Or you want to read that?
Yeah, I can try it. I have it in front of me, Crystal. So I move to recommend that the village modify its current definition of household to allow up to 4 unrelated individuals and direct staff to consider rewording for clarity and confirm consistency of the use of household throughout the municipal code, drafting all necessary updates for plan commission review.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed?
Nick?
Oh, okay. I didn't hear all the voices. So is it 6-1? Okay. Thank you. So moving on to basements, bedrooms and basements. So the issue here is, are we ready to remove prohibition of bedrooms and basements or not? So, but for the purposes of discussion, let's high level overview.
Yeah, so once again,
I'm just
Commissioner-
ready to make a motion whenever we get around to it, just whatever you want me to.
Okay.
the only quick update is I did confirm with other municipalities, no one else has this, nor were they familiar with anyone that did or why they would. So I think our code right now is a complete outlier, and I would look forward to a motion, and I would once again bring this back to the Plan Commission just to confirm what the actual language would look like.
All right, let's go with the motion, and then I'll open it up for discussion.
Yeah, I move to recommend the village remove its current prohibition of bedroom. I was gonna say stupid prohibition, but I didn't.
That's
Okay.
very mature.
Thank you.
Was that a second?
Second. You got a few of them.
Okay, I guess there's a lot of support. So motion by Commissioner Wickland and a second by Commissioner Clay. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, so that concludes the immediate business that we had for this evening. Is there a desire on the part of the Plan Commission to have any discussion regarding accessory dwelling units?
Dan doesn't want.
You don't want to have it tonight?
How
You'd
long do
like
you
to-
think that is, Bart?
Well, I can just say I wasn't looking forward to a full discussion of it, but if there is direction for me
Ah.
to bring back information, I'd be happy to do
There
so.
you go.
So
That's what we're going to do.
the brief update is you might have seen the news that Milwaukee recently adopted theirs. I have not had a chance to review their legislation, so I would like to review theirs in conjunction with Wauwatosa, reach out to both of them, get more information for you. So as long as you are comfortable with me bringing that back to you in August, that would be the only direction I'm looking for tonight. If by chance you're completely not up for the conversation, I'd love to hear that too, so I don't waste my time, but I get the impression that it's something that you would like to hear more information on.
Will that need a motion?
No.
We could do consensus.
Oh.
Is there,
We just gotta just real quick. There's been like 10 of these made in all of Milwaukee County. Like we're slower on something that's not that from.
But if we could allow 6 adults in each one,
Wouldn't that be fantastic?
unrelated.
Wouldn't that be something special?
And I agree with your comment. They have not been overly developed when they have been allowed. So I hope to bring those statistics back to you at the next meeting.
You did. I think you did a good job bringing them up.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand your concern.
So I guess so we talked about households, which incrementally might get 6 people living here that currently aren't. We're going to allow basements, which will change, maybe 0, maybe more than that. Could be, fingers crossed. All right, and AUDs, accessory dwelling units.
Yep.
As they've been allowed in Milwaukee, funding the current analysis that I looked. In Madison, there aren't a lot of houses these. I feel like we're not maybe doing enough. Is what I'm. Go ahead.
oh, so is that a position on, yes, bring it back in August, or don't bring it back in August?
I'm yes on getting it back in August, but I guess I'm trying to encourage more maximalist perspective.
Like, should we look at
Something would
something
be
else that
more
might matter more?
We should also look at something else. That'd be
Yeah.
great.
Okay,
Okay.
in August, is that your point?
I
Or
think
at
that we
all.
are not doing enough, and I would like to urge to continue down this
Excellent,
quickly, expeditiously.
thank you.
Thank you for hearing.
Maybe
Commissioner
Bart,
Clinton?
I was going to suggest maybe Bart, you could look at, are there other communities that have added a lot after they've passed these? Maybe it's something that's beyond our control. Maybe it's like, I know California, they become more popular, but maybe that's just a function of really incredibly high housing prices in California. But if there's other policies out there that seem to help expand on these, maybe it's something we should look at as well.
Thank you.
Question?
Yeah, actually, Commissioner Flynn Post, I think, was waiting to speak.
No, I mean, I didn't have my hand raised, but just thinking about this, that the cost prohibitive aspect of this makes me think, how much time should we be spending on this in particular? How much staff time, how much effort? And the research that I've done into it, some of those underwriting that municipalities have done feels a little bit arbitrary. So like a fund to say, we'll fund the first 5 projects, give them 10,000 a piece or 50,000 a piece, is something that I think is complicated for a project that is benefiting perhaps one additional dwelling unit. So if we want to get into this and spend much more time on it, I don't know that it's going to be yielding a lot more units if that's what Commissioner Pollack is looking to do.
Mhm.
Were we to do it, I hope we would do it in a way that would maximize units. Otherwise,
Appreciate
I
it.
agree that it's probably.
Right. Commissioner Klain.
I was going to ask, Barb, Wauwatosa has had this on the book since 2019. Is there any indication whether it's been a rousing success or are there a lot of problems? Have they indicated one way or the other?
My understanding is that it has not been very impactful with respect to the number of units, but I have not confirmed that. That was, 2 or 3 years ago when I did some research on that. So I do think to the points I'm hearing, I don't anticipate the adoption of this or the allowance of this to have large changes. But as I've mentioned in the past, our office does receive a handful of questions a year asking for this, primarily when people do replace their garages. And so we have a lot of old garages in the village that get torn down and modified. And so at that time, we do get people saying like, can I do this to that while I'm doing the project? And so I do think you're looking at minimal impact in terms of at least the next few years or so. So I would look towards confirming those numbers with other communities in Wisconsin that have them in similar housing markets. To the point of like staff spending too much time on this, I think the model is out there, whether it's Wauwatosa, Milwaukee, or otherwise. It's not a very complicated zoning discussion. It's going to be a matter of identifying what things you want to review alongside them, the review process, maximum square footage, et cetera. So I don't think the wording itself is going to take a lot of time. I think it's going to be more so a community discussion as to whether or not people have issues with it. So I have no problem bringing this back in August with more information, as I've discussed.
Yeah, I'm of the mind that we should remove barriers where we can, even if it means that we don't, even if we don't think it'll move the needle per se, just that we shouldn't have barriers that are not meaningful in any way. Ms. Kylie Miller?
Hi, I had a question for Bart. Is there a difference in a zoning code between an accessory dwelling unit and a guest house or a pool house or a little casita, that might be more used on a temporary basis versus a permanent resident?
In my current understanding, all the examples that you gave are accessory dwelling units. The one question I often think to myself or ask or try to clarify is the difference between an accessory dwelling unit and a duplex, because you can have attached accessory dwelling units. The primary difference is accessory dwelling units are considerably smaller than the main unit, and so they're either a percentage of the primary unit or they're capped at a certain square footage. But the detached examples that you provided would all be considered accessory dwelling units. And once again, the village would have the authority or ability to provide regulations for under what circumstances to allow that, whether it's height, lot coverage, et cetera. So to answer your question, Barbara, those I think all would be ADUs.
Because I know that we already have some of those in the backyards of properties on the east side of Lake Drive, which I assume were, built before our code was developed and our grandfathered in.
Correct.
Okay. And I think also that plan that we saw for the house that has yet to be constructed on the former Abley lot, they had a pool house in their plan too. So I just didn't know if it was, if it doesn't have a kitchen or, a full permanent residence space, if that made a difference.
Yeah, in order to qualify as a dwelling unit, you would have to have a kitchen. So there are minimum requirements for dwelling units that would need to be installed. Otherwise, it's, storage or another, guest room or
A
something. It's
shed.
not a dwelling unit in and of itself.
Thank you.
Thanks,
All
Barb.
right. I think the consensus is to bring it back with all that information. Is there interest in Bart also bringing back a review of the duplex criteria?
Yes, please.
Appetite?
As a
Yeah, I
matter
mean,
of
I
proof-
think to the extent we can make it easier for somebody to build a duplex or convert a single family home to a duplex if they so choose, like that's something we should look at. I think it fits the overall project, of sort of expanding housing types and I think of people who might be living by themselves in a big, like an empty nester having a big house, if they want to convert that into a duplex, for extra income or for whatever reason, it's, I think, something that we should look at.
We also look at why then we were paying people to convert duplexes to single family, and now we're going to say we want more duplexes. Probably should.
I'd be
look at
happy to include that information from my
Yeah.
perspective, because that was changed shortly after I arrived.
Density.
It was tax base and being more like Whitefish Bay. It was sort of an image.
Good use of funds.
Mhm.
No sarcasm.
Yes.
I do want to clarify the current intention of this particular one is to look at the R6 district. The R6 district in Shorewood is considered a 1 and 2 family district that doesn't currently allow the development of new duplexes. So to me, it's always been odd that we would have a district that is titled 1 and 2 family that previously allowed 2 family that no longer does allow 2 families. So in terms of incremental steps, my first discussion would be as to whether or not that district should, revert to its historic nature and allow them. If there's appetite for going beyond that, I'd be happy to hear that. But in terms of incremental and or first level discussions, that would be the intent of that particular one. But yeah, if there is appetite to extend it to other single family or single unit districts, that would be, to me, a secondary conversation once we get through the first one.
Thank you for that clarification. Were you going to say something?
So Bart, is there if you had a maximalist case to here of all the things you should consider, were you trying to create new housing opportunities in the village? Is there a list that we're not thinking about? Because it sounds like we're nibbling around the edges and maybe there's things that we haven't considered yet. And I'm not trying to commit us to a path yet. I'm just trying to know what should be on that list.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole gamut. Obviously, you could rezone swaths of property. You could allow 3 families, 4 families, et cetera. I'm not here to provide policy direction. That's what I'm receiving from you, correct? So I can, give you examples of other places I've done it. I'm just coming from a perspective of I don't want us to bite off more than we can chew and get mired in the weeds. And hopefully we can get at least some of these things moving forward to clear the plate on those, so to speak, so that if and when we're ready for those bigger conversations, which quite honestly would probably require amendments to our comprehensive plan, we're not still stuck on these relatively straightforward ones in my mind. So obviously, yes, there are discussions that could take place that would allow bigger change. That's not my intention of starting. My intention of starting is to get some of these ones that have kind of been hanging out there for a while. And then, yes, I'd be happy to provide you with examples of, more substantial changes, if and when that time comes for that conversation.
It sounds like another initiative. I'm not looking for reasons to slow it down, but I think the strategy that you're proposing is the right one. Because this is the first time that we've opened our residential code since I've been on the board. So,
And I do think at some point, if we have those discussions, the motions won't be there to advance them and we'll know how far we're comfortable with at least. So right now I heard, was it 6-1 on the first one, unanimous on the second one, but maybe ADUs and duplexes in R6 might be more, contentious. And so I just don't want to the point of the update I'm going to provide on the P1 application that was provided. I don't want us to get too far ahead of ourselves without public engagement or village board acknowledgement of, that's where the change has to go.
thank you. All right, so I'm hearing that we would like a review of the duplex criteria and then point duly noted about leaving room for more ambitious impact discussions in the future. So with that, I would close discussion on number 3 and move on to the update on P1 rezoning.
Sure, I'd be happy to just give that to you. So for those of you that didn't follow that through to the village board, your recommendation to expand P1 to allow all GX commercial uses was presented. There was a public hearing in the second meeting of the village board in June. The matter was deferred because there was split vote on the matter, essentially. The matter was deferred so that we can get additional information from the Business Improvement District. They did provide their letter with a recommendation to limit it to simply commercial kitchens. They did not think expanding to additional uses was good for competition and for those particular properties. And so at the first meeting in July, I'm not going to get the date right. So the first meeting in July, the village board did vote to allow only commercial kitchens. And so the Plan Commission had a broader recommendation that did go to the board for vote. It did not have the votes to pass. And so just wanted you to be aware of, our recommendations don't always sometimes get, taken at what they were. So once again, this dovetails back to my housing conversation of needing to be cognizant of the greater community and village board when we make these recommendations. So I'm happy that you had the conversation and pushed the conversation towards the village board. But as of now, the village board only adopted commercial kitchens.
And I'm happy to provide any other context, and Trustee McGovern is here as well, if that would be helpful.
I'd just like to make a comment that I'm glad that the Business Improvement District was, the bid was engaged and that they were able to provide a formal opinion. I think that's essential to this. So I was glad to see that.
Yeah, I appreciate it. You can thank Trustee Ursink was very instrumental. And Bart had, if you'll recall, Bart had reached out to, has attempted to engage all the stakeholders that were named and just didn't get that response. And so it really took being at the village board level with more light on it. And there were a couple of people that were present that night that found interest in it. And so that's the way that it got to the bid's attention in a, I guess, more effective manner. So it's good to remember.
Has there been any response from the school district since then?
No.
I appreciate the 5-year review because one of my concerns was about the impact to the school district properties.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. All right. Any other, I guess we can close on that. Future items?
No applications on file in our office, so we'll be back to you in August with items that we discussed.
Motion to adjourn?
I'll
So
make a
moved.
motion to adjourn. You
Okay.
can have it.
Commissioner, motion to adjourn by Trustee McGovern, seconded by Commissioner Wickland. Any objections? We stand adjourned at 7:09 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you.